What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. Nick, today on New Orleans on Football, help me understand this, because you have a good article where, you did one of your insane research projects, and you look at the injury report of every team over the last 2 years and try to determine, the context of the Saints' injuries. You call them the most injured team of the past 2 seasons, but then there's other lines in here like New England's had 50 players injured, right? Tampa 42. So like what's
soft tissue. Soft tissue.
Okay,
Most soft tissue. Let me. I'll have to go back and edit that if I left you confused. Most soft tissue injuries, and they're averaging, I think, what was it, 3.4 per game right now?
3.5 per week.
3.5 per game right now. Yeah, and last year the Packers were at like 2.5, and they were the most injured team in the league. They had like 44 soft tissue injuries or something like that, and the Saints are on pace for like 57 or something like that. And it's a significant number. It's a crazy number, and those are the ones that matter because they're preventable. Like when Paulson Adebo breaks his femur on the field, like you can't really point at anyone for that because the man broke his femur. Like when Taysom Hill breaks a rib or, bruises a lung, you can't really point. Like those are collision injuries. There's nothing you can do about them. The soft tissue stuff has been insane. It's the go through practice, somebody gets injured on Friday stuff. That's kind of, that's the stuff that costs people jobs eventually. And it's out of control right now. It really is. They're going to get a lot more healthy this week. So some of the good news is coming, I think. But up until this point, this injury thing it's a legitimate topic, and obviously it's gotten to a point where it's it impaled basically their ability to run an effective offense to a certain degree. And those are insane right now. It's crazy.
Now, one more on the soft tissue then, and then we can maybe move away from injuries for a bit. But last year they had a lot, but it was not outlier bad. But they're saying that they haven't changed any processes. So, I mean, is it just bad luck? Is it like, do you think that some sort of changes end up getting made to try to prevent these things? Like, what's your kind of interpretation of the data?
Well, here's the thing. If you want to, if you're looking at a 2-year sample and you want to call last year good luck, this year bad luck. Well, what if last year was just good luck? Like, what if you were just maybe not having the best system and things worked out the right way? Like,
that's a good point.
You could spin it either way you want. Like, it's just kind of, I think when guys are getting injured at this rate, something clearly isn't working. So, I think it's beyond the scope of bad luck at this point. If there's a couple of them early on or something, it's oh man, that was unlucky. But they're at a point where this has become a consistent theme, and every Friday now it seems like somebody's popping up on there. And on Fridays, it's basically a walkthrough. It's like a 90-minute practice where nothing's really happening. And I don't think it's just bad luck. I think Paulson Adebo breaking his femur is bad luck. I think Alvin Kamara getting a broken rib is bad luck. I don't think, hamstring is bad luck. I think that's something that you need to look at and seriously find an answer for it.
I mean, so like, what do you do? How do you fix the issues that they're having with it? I mean, like, what is the next step?
I think you got to look at everything you're doing with, they got all the data in the world. I think you really got to dig into it and just kind of figure out what's going wrong. And these are high paying jobs. So let's be, I'm not a sports scientist, so I don't know, exactly everything that goes into it, but they have those guys on staff. They have analytics people on staff. And I know they are looking at it at the front office level. I know that like a lot of people are studying this right now. It's become a priority in their building. Whatever the answer is, they got to get to it, because this is undermining their ability to win, maybe more so than any other thing. And you can call it, injuries an excuse and next man up and all that. But like, here's the reality of the situation. When you're managing your team the way the Saints do, like injuries can't really be part of you have to find a way to prevent them, because what you're doing when you're kicking the can on contracts and you're restructuring all that stuff, it's never, they got to cut Alvin Kamara, they got to cut Marshawn Lattimore, they got to cut Ryan Ramczyk. It's the guys behind them that get cut, and then you're bringing in league minimum players. So then when you have an injury, you don't have the depth to overcome it. So injuries can't be part of your just part of your scope. Like, you aren't a deep enough team to do that, and it's a decision you made starting back in, 17 when you went on this path with the cap. So that is something that it should be next man up. But most teams do cover their injuries. I think the Saints are at a point where it's beyond that, but like just the basic structure of how they're doing things, it is not an excuse. It's a consequence of that action. And you can't have it. So you can't have hurt players because the next guy up isn't as good as the next team's the next guy up.
Nick, so one thing that is kind of stark or really just like hits you in the face like a ton of bricks is if you go back and just look at the entire season's results and you look at the rhythm of the season. And I know it's 5 losses in a row, but it's not just that. It's 5 losses in a row that are kind of like an ever increasing descent into madness, right? Philly game was good. Atlanta game was good in a lot of ways. Kansas City game wasn't bad, but it wasn't god-awful. Then it gets to god-awful, and then with the context of Peyton and who the Broncos are, it's like the worst yet. It's just like, I don't know, Nick. I mean, you are hurtling at the side of the mountain, and I don't know you're going to be able to pull this plane up.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game's really critical. I really do, because it could end up being the type of game that if they don't come out and they play with the effort they had last week on defense, I think it could become extremely demoralizing. Just the style of football that the Chargers want to play. They want to run the ball. They don't want to use a lot of Justin Herbert. They want to just run it down your throat. And if you aren't stopping the run like that, you could look up and be at 250 very, very quickly. And if it's that type of game, those are the type of games that are soul breaking to a team where they're just running down your throat and you can't do anything. And the thing I think, and you guys would know this better than me, you were in those locker rooms and all that stuff, but I don't think people sit around and say, you know what, we're quitting. Like, I'm not playing anymore. Right. We're quitting. I think what happens is it starts to chip away at your motivation, and your 100% just becomes less than what it would be if things were going well. And it just becomes harder and harder to show up and find that full effort. And I think a lot of people go in wanting to play good, wanting to try, but it just isn't that. When you reach down for something, maybe it just isn't there. And I think if you keep losing games, that's what happens, and that starts to erode a little bit. I think it's imperative that they play good on offense this week. You got to score some points to hide this run defense. It's a legitimate liability. And, one of the good ways to do it, if you get a lead and you aren't trailing the whole game, they can't run for 250 on you. And maybe they have a chance of doing that. I think Rattler's going to start, but I think Ruiz is going to be back. I think Taysom Hill is going to be back. Chris Olave, Pete Werner, and Lucas Patrick. So you're getting 5 starters back on your team. Maybe there's a chance to actually evaluate Spencer Rattler this week with a little bit of time and protection. I think some of his decision-making last week left something to be desired, but, a little more help around him, maybe you get a look at him. So maybe they have a chance to do it. But, yeah, I think it's imperative. And, for me, if you want to ask where the breaking point is if they're going to make changes or whatever. If you lose this one and you lose to Carolina, like, I think it has to be over at that point. Like, you can't lose you can't lose 7 games in a row and have the Falcons coming into town for a home game where it's going to be they'll pack that place out, and you can't allow that to happen.
Look beyond the results, Nick. Okay, expand your mind. You're being too narrow-minded here.
I mean, if you lose to the Chargers and the Panthers, like that's
whoa. I don't like the way you implied that. The Chargers, sir, are 3-3. You could never. Okay, sir.
I mean, look, I think they look okay too, but like it's really more the Panthers game. Like, and I think Derek Carr will be back for that one. Like, if you lose to the Panthers, like that's
for sure.
And then at that point, like you really got to start looking at the draft at that point. If you lose 7 in a row while you're trying to win, like you have to at some point say, okay, this is over, and keep looking for it. Like people, I deleted a tweet last night because I couldn't deal with people, but like their season still is technically alive right now. It is like the Bucks that game. That emboldens them to stay on their path. Like if people want them to look for draft picks, like they would probably need to lose the next 2. Something needs to happen for it to feel like it's over. I think that would be the catalyst of, all right, like this is not working, and they would have to admit it at that point.
I mean, the window being open thing, I mean, like Taylor was just talking about during the commercial break. I mean, Tampa did have Godwin and Mike Evans go down last night. So, I don't have any faith, to be clear. I don't have any faith, but I do understand.
I mean, these next 2 games though are the ones that you have to have. Yeah, they're on the road in the NFL, but still the Chargers are beat up right now. The Panthers are god awful. Like your schedule lightens up a little bit, and it starts here on the road, but still, like, doesn't matter. These are your 2 opportunities, and if you win those, you are 4-5 with at least a pulse.
Yeah, I mean the schedule gets really soft, but I can't I can't I can't buy it. I can't no, I can't look beyond the results right now. I gotta see some results before I can do that.
Me too. What's the biggest bright spot on the team right now? Is it Fuanga?
Biggest bright spot on the team right now.
I mean, how's Fuanga? I feel like he's doing okay. I don't know.
Yeah, he's been good. I mean, I would have said Alante Taylor, but some of the tackling's been spotty on defense the last couple of weeks. It's kind of hard to highlight anyone there. It's Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, it really is. I think he's playing some of his best football. And his back, was kind of, I guess he put his own back against the wall. But, I kind of had low expectations coming into the year, just kind of given how the last two went and then how things were playing out. He obviously went out with the hamstring injury, and I never know what to expect with his injury situations. But he's been just at another. People aren't even throwing at him. Like he's at a different level right now. And if they were to tear it down, I think you get a decent asset for him. I think he's like rehabilitated that value quite a bit, and I think he looks really good.
So that was gonna be my next question. Do you do any mid-season moves trying to amass assets? Do you start to let some of these vets go find their way? I mean, at this point, I feel so bad for AK. He could still play. I know he wants to stay here in New Orleans. And you saw what he could look like if you actually have other weapons that you have to account for. But, I mean, it's just right back to now. He's the only thing defenses have to worry about, and they're just zeroing in. And he's playing.
Yeah, they're talking again. So, maybe that goes a different direction, on the contract. Nothing serious, but, like, the door's back open. I think it would take the next two. I really think it's dependent on the next 2 weeks. As it sits now, I would say no. I'd say no chance they do it because this is a team that truly believes just getting to the playoffs and, things happen there. And as much as I hate that, every time I hear it, I'm like, yeah, but the Bucs last year are a good example. Like they weren't a great team. They were fine. They got in the playoffs. They won a game. They almost won a second game.
Yeah.
So as long as they have something to chase, Mickey Loomis and the Saints, they're going to chase it. Like that's just what they do. So I think it would take the next 2 weeks, and then I think the trade deadline is November 5th. I think it's after that Carolina game, that Wednesday. So I really think it would depend on what happens the next 2 weeks. I mean, they just signed Valdez-Scantling, so they're bringing in help. They aren't trying to get worse or anything like that. Sometimes it feels fruitless to continue the pursuit. It does feel like maybe you should amass assets. For the long-term health of the team, I think if you're realistic about where you're at, it kind of feels like you're spinning your wheels a little bit, and it might be smart to take a step back a little bit to get too forward. But as it stands right now, I don't think they're going to do that.
Was there anything over the last, game offensively with all the guys that had to play because of injury that was encouraging, be it Bub Means or Mason Tipton or Spencer Riley, anything that you were like, okay, it wasn't great, but I can see that there's signs of life?
Yeah, so like Bub Means, I thought the first game he ran some really good routes, and there was some decent detail on him, and he was doing some things to kind of create separation that I liked quite a bit. So I was encouraged by that game too. I didn't really see anything a lot offensively that I felt great about. I think Kool-Aid has a chance. I mean, there's times where he looks a little bit lost, but I kind of like the idea of getting him on the field now, especially as things aren't necessarily going great overall. Like if he gives up a player or two, like doesn't feel like the end of the world given where the season's at right now. So kind of, obviously you never want to see somebody get hurt, and I wish his opportunity to get on the field came a different way. But I think getting him out there and seeing that, and then this is going to open up reps for Alante on the outside too. And if you eventually decide maybe this offseason, hey, now's the time to trade Lattimore. They tried to do it last year. The market wasn't really there. He's playing. He looks good. People see it. Now you got to look at Alante on the outside, and you can maybe really know what that's going to be. I think in those base downs, he's going to be on the outside, and then Kool-Aid will come in and play outside. Alante will move to the slot. I think some of those things look okay. Jordan Howden getting thrust into action a little bit gives you a chance to see if you need a safety this offseason. So, I mean, there are some things that you're seeing a little bit of, and I like seeing the tight ends kind of come to life a little bit too. Foster's been playing well. I think Juwan fits better with Rattler than maybe he does with Carr. Yeah. So maybe that's more of a just how the quarterback attacks the field thing there, the lack of targets for the tight ends. But I mean, they're few and far between, man. We're kind of grasping at straws here for
Jordan
spots.
Howden's,
Yeah.
If he's what it's indicative of the times, alas. Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.